Ah, where were we?
Okay, so just for the benefit then of the viewers, we were speaking for about 10 minutes and I failed to press the record button. And so I'll start again. And what I'll do is I'll sort of fire away rapidly what I said before. And so basically, I introduced you as your mate Tom, and you're from Australia, and you've got your own channel, which I consider to be a really good channel. It's fantastically produced. There's a lot of thought and time and effort goes into it. You do your research. You've had your experiences. You know what you're talking about. And you're a smart guy. And so the world needs more people like you. And it's a crying shame that, unfortunately, that there isn't a great deal of people like you, which speak very, very sensibly about this stuff. And so for the benefit of my viewers, then you can see Tom's channel and how he's speaking about psychedelics and his experiences, which will scare the fuck out of most people, I would think, as they did you. And
Yes.
so I was engaging you with the horrors potentially which people can experience via psychedelics, and I spoke about Scott from Ayahuasca Magic and how, having had a good number of ayahuasca ceremonies, which were going great, and he was feeling all enlightened and getting all the positive benefits from it, then he considered that he had some sort of an attachment that he couldn't get rid of, and this is why he created his site, and he talks about the dangers of ayahuasca. And he struggled with these psychic attacks for about 2 years. And for those who aren't familiar with Scott from Ayahuasca Magic, then you can look at his channel and you can see that he speaks about manifestations of demons and even Jesus at some stage in real time, in everyday consciousness. And so this potentially is a very peculiar, perplexing and terrifying thing for people to consider, because the thing I love about psychedelics, in my experience so far, you go into them and you come out and you can go, thank God I'm back. It was great, but I wouldn't want to stay there, and I wouldn't want a relationship with anything that's in there in my everyday matrixial consciousness, because it will fuck with your head. It just doesn't work having these other dimensions mixing together. And so you had a couple of experiences in Peru whereby you've done your documentaries, and you speak about how terrifying it was, and you lost it on one of them, and you wanted to kill yourself, and all this sort of thing. But then you've come out of it, and you are a better person for it, but evidently you are of a stronger disposition than most. I mean, it could go the other way for the people. They could feel haunted and like they've got an attachment, and there's demonic connections, and when you close your eyes there's demons there and all this fuck. Just speak a little bit about that, really, if you can, Tom.
Yeah, so psychedelics, as you know, are very, very profound tools. And I look at them as like amplifiers of consciousness, and that depends where you are. So this is why right now I emphasize on working on your foundations first before fucking with that kind of stuff.
Now, just before you go on, what I will say is, and some people give me some flack about this, because there's lots of people that say, oh, the magic of ayahuasca and the miracle cures that it can have on you. And when you watch these ceremony documentaries, videos that people make, people go there and you'll see the caliber of people. There's a lot of broken souls, and some of them actually say, I've tried to kill myself. If this doesn't work, then there's nowhere for me to go. And so they're putting everything, they're investing everything into this potential of curing them through this psychedelic experience. But what I said is that, and I haven't experienced ayahuasca, but of course doing psilocybin and DMT, then We did
Very similar.
a similar
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. And so what I say is, and what has helped me along, I'm absolutely positive, my deep understanding of human psychology. And so what I recommend to people is before they go thinking this is a miracle fucking cure and this is going to, put them on the right track, they need to do some study, and I would say minimum of 2 years, constant study on real psychology. And I'm talking Freud, I'm talking Jung, I'm talking
Jung,
Adler,
yeah.
Fritz Perl, I'm talking all the greats. I'm not talking no bullshit textbook that you're going to get in any college or university. That ain't going to cut it. You need deep psychology. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
Jung is the man, but you've got to put 2 years into other psychology before you're going to get your head around that guy. And so that,
100%.
yeah, that's what I say. Know thyself.
Know thyself.
Take a leaf
Yeah.
out of Socrates. And so when you know thyself, when you know that the shit that your brain can come up with and the lies it can tell you and the false fears and all this sort of stuff, when you got a
The
grasp on
deception.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you can go on to the psychedelics because you're going to have a deep-rooted foundation of deep understanding and strength and confidence because you would have expelled all or most of the fears that are false. And so then you can go into it and you can get some benefits.
Yes, 100%. Like you said, it's important to work on your foundation, deep psychology, learning a little bit about the nature of reality. I would recommend learning the 7 Hermetic principles just to have a broad understanding of how this reality works. And one of those principles is the law of polarity, right? And for one thing to exist, it has to have an opposite. And the thing about a lot of the people in the ayahuasca community is they look at ayahuasca as pure. It's this benevolent, healing mother figure. And it's like it can be, but there's also a polar opposite of that as well. It can also be a malevolent, demonic kind of thing.
Such
That
is the
can
nature
fuck
of the
you up.
universe. Such is the nature of the
Such is
mind.
the nature of the universe. And the more extreme it goes on one end, the more extreme the potential it has on the other end. And this is why it's very, very crucial to work on your foundation. Because if you've got a toxic body and you don't take care of yourself, you don't understand about deep psychology and the nature of reality, then guess what's going to be projected onto your psychedelic experience? All those delusions and deceptions. And the experience can feel so real. That's the thing. It can feel so freaking real that you're convinced that that is the truth of reality or whatever. And if you've got a shady kind of foundation, then you're going to have a shady psychedelic experience.
And if you've got unresolved issues from your childhood, then this sort of stuff is going to be made prominent because the whole premise of psychedelics is it teaches you about yourself, your deep-rooted self. And so people need to do the Jungian shadow work. They need to look at the deepest crevices in the unconscious mind. And one of the portals, obviously, to this is deep meditation and introspection, along with the psychology, along with human experience in general. And then, of course, it's about the whole purification of the mind and body to put you in a good setting. Because if you're full of attachments and some sort of, I'm hesitant about saying this, but, demonic attachments and mind viruses, I believe they're absolutely real. And, people will be in absolute trauma with these mind viruses throughout their lives because they've not got a grasp and understanding that they can actually take control over these. They can banish these because you are not the ego. You are something higher. And when you get in touch with this something higher and you look down then at the confusion of the ego, then you can start going, hang on. The ego can very, very often tell us lies. It will misguide us. It's basically an entity dwelling within this body which has a mind of its own and it wants to do what it wants to do. And your body wants to do what it wants to do. It wants to feed itself with this and that. And if you've been born into a culture whereby you've been fed with fat and sugars and salts and any number of impurities, then your body, the microbial organisms within your body get used to that and they get stronger and stronger and bigger. And if you've got 7 gazillion particular microbe that craves fat and salt and sugar or something like this, then if you don't give it, then it's like, oi, I want salt. I want
Yeah.
sugar. And this comes in burgers, it comes in Cokes, and it comes in all this shit, which is poisoning the body. And so,
Yeah.
therefore, you can say to yourself, well, these attachments that we've got, these cravings, these addictions, we've got to banish those somehow because they're absolutely bad for the body and for the mind. And so once you start to look at all this stuff going on and see how your body's reacting and your mind is, then you've got some sort of footing to make some changes. And
Mm,
so you go to an ayahuasca ceremony, and all this stuff, it gains energy and it shows you its face, yeah?
mm,
And so when you
100%.
was in the midst of your traumatic event on the second or third night, um, what sort of pain were you in then?
Ooh, uh, see, the reason why that experience happened is I still don't know to this day. It could be like repressed emotions. It could be like facing the shadow, but too much of it all at once, or it just got too overwhelming. My ego freaked out. There's many reasons why this could have happened, but uh, when you're saying like the pain that I was in my everyday reality, or just this
Within
experience itself,
that ceremony, because you
right,
bashed your head on the wall and you want to
right,
kill
okay,
yourself and you wanted
yeah,
out at any cost.
yeah. It just started off as just a complete psychotic breakdown, and then human concepts started to just get blown into the abyss, and I started to just completely lose my mind. Like I felt like my brain was broken and I was never going to get out of this. And I've had pretty scary experiences where I thought like, okay, I'm never going to be able to integrate to this reality again. And they were really scary experiences, but this was on a whole different level. This is like, you're not coming out of this. You're going to be like a psychotic the rest of your life. And I saw myself in like a mental institution, and like the pain that my mother is going to go through and all this kind of stuff. And I was like a conduit of all the collective suffering of humanity of all time, all the wars, the rapes, the murders, everything. And I just felt all that pain. And I guess the scariest part of that was that I was in this void or abyss, whatever you want to call it, but I was in this timeless dimension where every single moment felt like eternity, and I was all alone. So the overwhelming emotion was just despair and hopelessness, and there was no entities. It was just me alone in the universe, which is fucking, it's scary, man, because people think that like, and of course demons and negative entities, they're scary, don't get me wrong, but the abyss, that's something else, man. Yeah,
Yeah, to be
definitely.
alone, and I've experienced this on I think it's my second DMT trip, whereby I had this whole solipsism thing going on, whereby it was me. I'm the creator. It's kind of
Mm.
like, holy fuck, it's been me all along. This is where I've been for a billion years, and I've created this sort of apparition to experience something, to forget all the knowledge that I know. And it really is immensely perplexing. Duncan Russell has spoken about feeling the trauma of the whole world, the
Yeah.
absolute pain and distress of the whole world forever. My goodness, unimaginable. And you would think, coming back from an experience like that, you would have aged about 50 years during.
Yeah. Like the first thing I did actually when I came back to this reality, I like, of course I was traumatized and shocked, but I just laughed. Maybe that's just my defense mechanism. Like, oh, okay, I feel a bit silly now. I'm back. But I didn't actually realize the severity of that trauma until like a month later. I thought I was all good. I'm like, I mean, yeah, it was fucked up. It was scary, but I'm back here. I'm good. But that was just my defense mechanism. It took me a while to process, like, no, actually, no, I'm not okay from that. That's pretty messed up. And it was really scary because I went with my girlfriend who drank ayahuasca as well. And I was so convinced that I had either two choices: be psychotically depressed and crazy the rest of my life, or kill myself. And I'm like, well, the logic answer would be to kill myself, because how can I live like this? I can't. It just would not be a good quality of life. And I remember saying goodbye to my girlfriend as if that was going to be the last time I've ever seen her. And it was just, it was rough, man. I was just going, just completely insane. I just went bonkers, and I just wanted to get out. I was demanding the facilitators for like a gun, like get a gun to my head, get a gun to my head. I just can't be here anymore. It was just too much. Every
Yeah.
single moment was just too excruciating. It just wasn't worth it. Even,
Yeah.
yeah, it just wasn't worth it. I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. I can't do this. And then, yeah, eventually I just went a bit, started banging my fists on the wall and my head, and then they held me down. And then, yeah, eventually it went down, and I felt a bit silly afterwards, but it was just too overwhelming, man. Yeah, it was just too much.
But a few days later, was it 3 days later, you went back in again?
Yes, yes.
So
And
absolutely commendable to do that. Most people would have grabbed their bag and fucking never looked back.
yeah, that's what the facilitator said. He's like, yeah, I thought you would have packed your bags the next day. And I'm like, as much as I do, it's like, I don't want that to be my last experience. Like,
Yes.
surely I just had that little bit of faith that it was going to go full circle. And I did go back. I didn't have much of an experience. And then the ceremony after that, it kind of all made sense. I don't know if it was just my ego justifying that experience, or whether it was this profound thing. Um, but a lot of it were lessons that I already knew. And a big part of that was like, no, I don't kind of need this anymore. I don't know why. There was no reason for me to go back, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just did it because I thought I did. I'm like, I was going through a lot of turmoil in my life leading up to that. And I'm like, nah, this is going to help me, resolve this, this, and this. But then that was just an excuse that my ego attached to, when really, yeah, I've got the power to do everything I need.
Yes, exactly. And so it's poignant to note that you have expressed that you were the most terrible of people. You even went as far to say that you was a psychopath and a narcissist and all this sort of thing. And
Mm.
so when you
On the
feel,
outside, anyway. Yeah.
yeah, when you've got deep distress going on like this, then it seems like grasping at something. Well, maybe that will cure me. And in your particular instance, you had certain realizations about it, and you come out of it, and it's a marvelous experience, and you went back again to do it again. And it seems to me that for you it worked because the position that you're at now is commendable. And so for some people, then it does work. You can come out of it receiving the knowledge that you needed to receive and to go forward
Yeah.
with your life and get more stability. But there are other people that don't manage to do that. And so,
No, I've heard horror stories. It's not pretty.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's really
so what I think, I mean, you said it's kind of like, oh, I knew it already. You see, when I'm taking, say, like, 3.5 or 4.5 grams of psilocybin, and I get to all these things that keep coming back to me, and I know them, but what happens is in the everyday life, you suppress these things. And
yeah.
the thing that I always mention is that in, my psilocybin always tells me that I should be closer to my daughter. Because I'm always living abroad. And, that evidently plays on my mind. I dream a lot about her, and I speak with her every
Yeah.
day. But this, connection whereby I'm watching her and I'm seeing her grow and all this sort of thing, I've lost that. And so that kind of haunts me. And so when I have these psilocybin experiences, then it tells me what is haunting me. And so what
Mm.
was haunting you is, for some reason, you've got this notion of, your biggest fear, your room 101. I don't know whether you remember the film George Orwell, 1984. I think it's in that film. But what happens is ultimately, if you're a bad boy, then they will give you your room 101, and they will put you in this room with your worst nightmare. And his was rats. And so your worst nightmare was losing your mind. And
Yeah.
to be fair, this is also up on my high up on my list, because my old man and my mother, they both committed suicide. And the
Yeah,
old
sorry to hear
man,
about that, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was about 15 years in depression, and he tried it 3 times, and on the fourth time he actually did it because he couldn't find no joy. And so,
Mm.
because I have such a high level of joy for this world, then of course the greatest thing that's gonna, make me feel terrified is losing that, losing the joy
Mm.
of looking at the sunrise or the sunset or the light glistening through a meadow or something like this. And so, what is it about your notion of losing the mind? Where do you think that derived from?
Ooh, yeah. I think because there was a lot of the reason why I had that experience. A big part of it is because I still have to pay off my karmic debt because I just did a lot of bad shit when I was younger and a lot of unresolved stuff. And I think a big part of my fear of losing my mind is that because when I was younger, I did struggle with like suicidal thoughts and depression, and I wasn't happy at all. And maybe that kind of seeped back up into my consciousness. And something about that, just getting to the stage where you feel the need to commit suicide is something that, oh, yeah, it fucking scares the shit out of me. Like, it's something that I have the most empathy for with people. And that's something that hits home because it's such a horrific place to be at. And for me to go to that place where it's not that like the thought of suicide like gave me joy. It was like, no, this reality is so fucking horrific that is the better option. That's what is my idea of this nightmare trip and my worst fear. Yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously there's a lot of people that suffer from some sort of level of depression. And if they're on a psychotropic medication, then it's always, one of the things that's in the list, can lead to suicidal thoughts and this, that, and the other. And when people talk about the depths of depression, where this world gives them nothing, and
Yeah.
if it goes on for a long time, then they just want out. And so if you have this sort of thing, you see John Hopkins Hospital, they're working on that now, aren't they, with psilocybin, relieving
Yeah. With the existential anxiety and stuff.
yeah, all this sort of thing. And so for people like that, then, where they can't see no way out, I would think that ayahuasca, potentially is a lifesaver. I mean, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, then I don't know how much more they have to lose, whether, they start to get haunted even more by the dark. I don't know. I mean, it's a really difficult subject to talk about because we can never know.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is so mixed. But just
Because
leading on.
I once it can save someone's life, destroy another. It's like so hard to tell, like whether it's going to help someone or not.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. It's kind of like, you throw the dice. And
Yeah.
you can come out of it with a relative level of purification and vigor for life, thinking that, oh yeah, I've kind of like, get that now, I've got a resolve on this now, and now I'm going to do this, and now I'm going to do that. But if you come out of it from the other perspective, like this chap I met in recent times, a chance meeting just down here outside my apartment, and he who had been watching my videos, and he came up to me with some sort of urgency and said, we've got a lot to talk about. And we engaged there and then for 3 hours non-stop until our folks were exhausted. And then we met again and again, and I'll meet him one more time before he leaves. But what he said was that having been to Peru and done 150 ceremonies, then he feels that he's got an attachment, some sort of demonic thing which is trying to stop him going towards the light. And he even went so far to say, back in his home country, he considered that these attachments followed him across, a couple of continents, and they made manifest in people which were close to him. I can't help thinking that this is a traumatized mind and some sort of level of paranoia. But, it's a crazy world, and so I wouldn't want to say for sure. But in view of that, It didn't work for him, evidently. He had a call to go to do ayahuasca. He did it, 6 ceremonies, and then the shaman sent him home and said, you come back and train as a shaman. So he did this. And taking ceremonies, say, like 3 times a week, what do you feel about that? Isn't that going to send you mental?
I think it's, yeah, to me anyway, I think that's a little bit overkill. That's a lot. Because even like we were saying before, one psychedelic trip takes so many months to like process it. And you're just smashing your consciousness constantly 3 times a week that it can fracture your sense of self. And it seems like this guy who's seeing entities and stuff like that, because now his ego, his sense of self has all these cracks where he's seeping into these other realities, even in his everyday consciousness. So maybe, see, I don't even know, like just my tuition tells me that that's way too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know what sort of constitution one would need, because everybody I've spoken to, when they've done a reasonable high dose of, psilocybin, or
Mm.
they've done some ayahuasca ceremonies, they go, right, well, I've got to go away and think about this shit.
Yeah.
And I went into another dimension, into another world which I didn't know existed, or maybe I've heard about it, or maybe I've experienced a little bit about it on various other entheogens. But
Yeah.
to have a big trip where you meet entities, and your whole life is being turned upside down, then that stuff needs assimilating, particularly when you've got to go back to work and you've got to go back to your family. You can't talk
Yeah.
to this about people. And
Yeah.
so if you're doing it on an ongoing basis, and I can't help thinking that you're looking for trouble. And so this guy then, what he's done now, he's at war with his body. He's at war with his mind. He's fighting on a daily basis against his mind and against his body. And I'm like, well, what is it about the body then that you're fighting? You can't eat this and you can't eat that, because if you eat this and you eat that, that'll kill you. This will kill you. Everything. I said, look, everything's going to kill you. No, there's no reason why we should die. There's certain entities on this planet that don't ever die, the masters and this, that, and the other. And like, he's gone into a really peculiar realm whereby he's heading for that. And I'm saying, so what is your intention here? Is it actually to live forever? He says, yes, it's to rise above this body, to absolutely purify this body and the mind by not getting involved with any of the impurities. And I said, well, that's what this dimension's about. It's about
Mm.
experience, and it's about learning your lesson, taking this and seeing what it feels like, taking that and this, that, and the other. But all he wants to do is drink distilled water, eat, almost raw leaves and a bit of fruit, and head for this light, delving into the deep esoteric information, which is very, very difficult to get your hands on. It's not on the everyday internet. You have to go deep internet. And so I can't help thinking that some people, they probably lose themselves in some sort
Yeah.
of battle with the demons.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's a lot of deception in these realms, and you don't know, because sometimes you may see this light being like, hey, come over here, come towards this light, but then it could be something that leads you towards a dark tunnel. You just don't know. And I think it's important to ground yourself, because we are bounded in this physical reality, whether you like it or not. And we're here, I believe anyway, that we are here for a reason. We are here to learn and grow and gain all these lessons. And when you try, I think there are a lot of people that use psychedelics or even spirituality to kind of escape this physical realm and go to the spiritual realms and stuff like that. But this is, as above, so below. Like, this is the spiritual dimension as well. It's just as important as the other dimensions. And it's
Yeah.
important to learn the rules here.
Yes, just
Yeah.
another facet of it, and one of the things that I fail to grasp in its full magnitude is people that when they are here, what they endeavour to do for the whole duration is try to get out of here.
Yeah.
Try to be this spirit in this matrixial dimension. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure whether that works. How could it work? And so if you look at the Buddha then, sitting under a tree, for all of his life and just eating a couple of bowls of rice, here and there, and
Yeah.
just in meditation, just trying to escape the human form because so terrified of the suffering, and to contemplate on why do humans suffer? Oh, suffer, 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 suffer. Well, you're suffering yourself then because you are giving it too much energy. If you just accept it as part of the course in this dimension that we do suffer, and
Yeah.
when you suffer, you feel it, you experience it, so you try to minimize it, and you work with it. And so it seems to me that that's the way forward, rather than trying to be so pure that you don't ever encounter any sickness, because sickness and illness is part of the human growth. It's part of the spiritual growth, because anybody
Mm.
that's never suffered has not grown, have they?
No, definitely not. And suffer, yeah, it's like you said, some people try to escape suffering completely, but you can't. The best case scenario is that you can minimize it. You can minimize suffering and maximize joy. But yeah, we're gonna grow old, we're gonna die, we're gonna go through some shit, and we're gonna suffer. That's period. So it's good to accept it. It's hard to accept. It really, I don't blame people for wanting to escape this reality, but you have to just deal with the cards that you have. Like, we're here, period. Yeah.
Yes, you're here to have an experience, and
Yeah.
it's easy for me to speak from a level whereby I've never experienced any deep ongoing depression or any
Mhm.
horrors, and so we don't know the minds of these people that
Yeah.
leads them into suicide. But you look across the board and everything is here, and everybody experiences this dimension and the other dimensions in their own particular way. And
Yeah.
if you get like a dozen people at an ayahuasca experience, then they're all going to take something individually out of it, and no experience is going to be the same invariably.
Mm.
Yeah, so not to get too deep into the negative aspects of psychical realm.
Yeah.
What can you say has been the positive aspects of your experiences? Do you consider now that you've gotten over lots of the issues that you had prior to these experiences?
Many, I can't say all issues, definitely not. There's some stuff that I need to do a lot of work. But in terms of the positive aspects of psychedelics and how they've helped me is, I would say at the start of my journey, they definitely helped me understand what it is to be human. You know what I mean? And have these insights, like just even understanding the nature of duality and suffering. And I got a lot of very profound lessons, which helped me reconcile with a lot of my depressive and anxiety issues that I used to have. These days, it's definitely helped me overcome a lot of these issues. Like, in terms of depression and anxiety, like, yeah, I mean, sure, clouds come and go every now and again, but I don't cling on to them. Like,
Yeah.
I just kind of take advantage of the season and have some tea and hot cocoa or whatever it is that you want to do. Uh, but I feel like with depression as well, it's a beautiful opportunity to go deep within and self-inquire. There's a lot of lessons when it comes to suffering, for sure. But something else that it really helped me is just to be more aware of my negative thought and behavior patterns, and just that need to just want to become a better person. And I think one of the things that psychedelics has had a most profound effect is my empathy. Like, my
Right.
sensitivity to life is just, sometimes it's too, because I've also experienced the negative end of that spectrum where I was too sensitive to life, where I could hardly go outside without kind of absorbing the negative energy of my surroundings. So it's important to have your own walls. My walls just completely got shattered, so that wasn't fun. But now I'm on a healthy level where I'm sensitive to life, I think in a beautiful way, because now when I experience joy, it's like ecstatic, amazing joy. But that also goes with the pain and suffering. I have a deeper capacity to feel, but I don't look at it as a bad thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And so,
Yeah.
when you have bouts of, say, negativism, if you
Yeah.
feel there's the black dogs coming over you, which was a term that Winston Churchill used to use when he used to get depressed.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's debilitating. It can be debilitating. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
there's degrees, but for people that have it on a lesser scale, then you look at it. Okay, so here you come again. How best to manage you? It's a beautiful world out there. Let me try to go out and take advantage of, like you say, the seasons and this, that, and the other. And you look at it and you go, okay, that's interesting. So, is there anything you want to tell me? Is there anything you want to teach me today to enable me to live a
Mm.
more fulfilled life? And so, if you can do this, if you have the facility whereby something else is observing the ego and the physiology of the body, then you're your own pharmacist and your own doctor and your own healer, because you're stepping outside of yourself and you go, oh, okay, then, right, Tom. I think what we need to do is, mate, we need to do a bit of exercise today. We need to push
Yeah.
forward. We need to drink plenty of water, eat a bit of fruit, and this, that, and the other, and maybe engage with some people that bring about fun from time to time. And
Yeah.
this is helpful to convey this to people, because there's so many people. Because I deal with people that suffer from, varieties of depression. And because I don't, then it's kind of like, how can I help? Well, how I can help is by speaking to people that have it and how they manage
Right.
it. And,
Yeah.
showing people other videos, how they manage it, and this, that, and the other. And hopefully, eventually, they will see something in the other person that strikes a chord with them and gives them a tool in which to help them along with it.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a tough one. Like with depression as well, like what's the opposite of depression? It's expression. Because like when you're in a depressive mood, you just want to stay stagnant, you want to stay still, you want to stay indoors, you just want to be alone and shut yourself out from the outside world. And a good way to break out of that is movement, express yourself, get some sunlight. That's really underrated. But
Absolutely, absolutely underrated.
yeah, yeah, and just like really, it's so simple. I know sunlight, exercise, water. It's like so simple things, but it fucking really helps. And it's just doing that consistently every single day, and expressing yourself. You know, you can use depression as an outlet. Like when I was a teenager, for example, I was really into like heavy metal, and that was an outlet for me to use that creative energy for something more productive. Maybe heavy metal is not like for me, it's like too much for me right now. But you could use depression as you can use a creative outlet like art, drawing, making videos, expressing yourself, whatever. There's plenty of other ways. You know.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
even if you get angry with yourself about the whole situation and maybe throw a few things around the room or something, then the chance that that's going to alleviate some of the kemped up pressure within you, and then it's going to
Yeah,
change
because
your
it's stored
mind.
in the body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So these days, then you seem to be very bright and positive about life, and you seem
Most of the time, yeah.
you seem to have an enormous amount of time to compile these videos, because you know the nature of my videos. I just stick the camera in my face and then I bang it up. I don't have the aptitude, the knowledge, or the inclination to do things on the level that you do, but it works in this day and age, because this is what people want. They want, this and that. And,
Yeah, yeah,
if you're
yeah.
talking about something, they like a little excerpt, or they want to see a visual or something. And so, I looked and I thought, wow, I'd like to be able to do it. I'd like to be able to produce my videos in a more expressive way, because I can think of like, oh, something which would add to it, but I just physically, mentally can't do it. It's just not me.
Yeah.
And so
And that's fair enough, because sometimes making those documentaries, like it's nice sometimes, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. I could make like 10 videos in the span of time it takes me to make like one high production video. So yeah, there are definitely the negatives to it. And like I said, I do enjoy making those videos, but sometimes I enjoy just talking in front of a camera, like just to kind of free associate instead of being too calculated. So I like to have a balanced approach
Yeah,
with
because
my
I
videos.
remember one of your early videos whereby you're doing psilocybin in the woods, and you got freaked out again, and you had to call your girlfriend.
Yeah.
She came out to give you a hug, and I'm like, it's kind of cute in a way, because it gives you an extra bond with the people around you, doesn't it? It stops you from being insular. And if the people that love you are close to you, they feel as if they're losing you, like many of your family members did when you announced that you was going to go to Peru, and they're telling you
Yeah.
come back mad and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And so they can feel that, we're losing Tom. But then when you have a bit of a negative experience in one of these realms and you hang on to them, and it's kind of like, I'm glad to be a part of this, then it is beneficial for them, because
Yeah.
it increases the level of bond. And so then they can say to themselves, well, I mean, okay, so if you didn't have that negative experience, then he wouldn't have expressed how much he needed me in that moment in time, and so that's a good thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? To keep this human bonding thing, because I've gone through
Yeah.
experience
Definitely.
with Paul, with psilocybin, and in the early days, man, it fucked with our heads, and we got really fucking insecure about ourselves and
Yeah.
each
Right.
other and the world. And if, then when you sort of, yeah, you
You went
come,
back to that place.
yeah, you fucking go out there, and then you start questioning the friends around you. You start thinking, are they demons? Why am I friends with this person? Have
Not
they,
mad.
yeah, have they come to infiltrate me or take me on another path? And you start to question then your own strength and your direction. And then when the time eases, you look back and you go, well, all those thoughts are quite preposterous. But then you
Mm.
go, or were they?
Or were they?
It's wild, because particularly, I mean, what psilocybin does for me, it makes me very perceptive
Mm.
into the other so-called human beings around me. And I don't know whether you're familiar with this, but these days there's a lot of talk about non-humans. Now, they can be called husks, or extras, or backfills, as Dorius Cannon taught some, or they can be called NPCs, i.e. in the computer, non playing characters,
Right.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then there's lots of people talking about different varieties of energy, which isn't in actual fact human being. And so it's a curious thing, because this is what I stumbled upon whilst I was in one of my first decent psilocybin trips, that all of a sudden, all of the so-called human beings around me, I could feel their energy. Some of it was really negative. Some of it was, very human-like, and some of it was dull, and some of it was kind of like I couldn't figure it out. And so
Mm.
I was thinking to myself, well, why do I have this, inner feeling about these things around me? And so I started to look into it, and more, starting to discover that there's so many people been talking about this. Well, what do you feel about that? Do you think we're all human?
Ah, fucking hell.
Put you on the spot now.
It's a big question.
First of all, put him on
Uh,
the fucking Freudian couch, and now throwing this one at you.
it's like,
Want to keep
are
you on
you
your
even
toes,
human? It's like, I hope so.
Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, with the whole alien and extraterrestrial kind of stuff, it's something that I personally don't go down. Like, I don't go down that road too much, because it's something that I'll never really know. Uh, I like to believe that I'm human, and I just
Organic
like.
portals. Have you heard of those? Organic portals.
No, that's an interesting term.
Yeah. So, I mean,
What's an organic portal? Like us?
an organic portal is an extra in our movie. And
Right.
I mean, you see, I'll mention Dolores Cannon because she's kind of mainstream as far as all this stuff goes. She's this little benevolent old lady. You know, you
Yeah.
expect her to bring a freaking knitting out while she's talking to you, but she's talking about this stuff, saying they're not all human. You know, don't get
Mm,
thinking they're all human. And she tells people how you can discern them, how you can feel them, and all this sort of stuff.
mm,
And so when you look at how wild this world is, with all the varieties of entities that you can meet in other dimensions, whether indeed we go into another dimension when we have DMT or psilocybin, whatever,
yeah.
but there's other shit going on there. And so,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
on the back,
I believe in all that kind of stuff. And I think that there probably are a lot of people in power that aren't exactly human, which is could be part of the reason why we're in the mess that we're in. But it's just one of those things that I don't entertain those thoughts too much, at least at this stage of my life. I think it would just make me too, uh, I don't know, it just scares the shit out of me. It's like, do I really want to go down that rabbit hole kind of thing?
yeah.
Not that I blame people for going down that rabbit hole. It's just right now, I don't think I don't know, not something that I'm interested in at this stage.
Yeah,
It just seems really,
it's
yeah,
it's a very good point that you make, and again, you know, I appreciate your honesty on this because there's various levels to this, and at some stage, there's an arena that you start to delve into, and you just have to go, "Whoa, do I really want to go there? What are
yeah,
the
yeah. Because I've
implications?"
opened a lot of doors in my life where I'm like still like going through the process of accepting. I'm like, oh, do I really want to open all these other doors? Like, so I'm like focusing more on just being grounded and doing what I can in my power to change my life in just my little way, I suppose. But that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, because otherwise, I think it gets very, very complicated, and you see, with the likes of myself and other members of
Mm.
my new community, we're kind of like 40 and 50 years old, and so
Yeah.
we're kind of like thinking like, oh fuck it, we're over halfway now. Let's try and find out, what this fucking thing's really about, and so
Yeah, yeah.
we
I could
start.
see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you start pushing out the boat, and or pushing the envelope, whatever expression you want to use. And then if you start to consider the shapeshifters and the lizards and the
And
Anunnaki
the
and
reptilians and stuff.
the archons and all this sort of thing,
Yeah.
then if you want to look into that and to the origins of that, if you look into Michael Tessarian, Mark Passio,
Mm.
and many other people that have done deep esoteric studying into the very, very initial existence, from what we can gather from our history of the human being, then you can see
Mm.
that there's some shit going on. There's some
Yeah.
stuff that they know
Probably.
that we don't know, and
Yeah.
so okay,
That's
so
why I
that.
don't even look at that stuff as like crazy or far fetched. It's just like, oh, I don't know if I want to know right now.
Yeah,
I'm just,
because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, well, what's it going to give me? What does it
yeah,
mean? Because I can walk out here now, and based on what I know, I'm looking at them and I'm going, is that one? Is that one? Oh, I don't think that's one. And you engage with people. You get
yeah,
in a lift with somebody, and they're like that.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, come on. What is it with lifts where people get into a small confinement like that, and all of a sudden they just go into some sort of sleep mode? And you try to engage with them, conversation, and they're all out of sorts. I mean, it's kind of like, how dare you try to engage me in such close proximity where I can't escape, and it's really
Yeah,
perplexing.
it's so true. Yeah.
And you think to yourself, come on, you're not fucking human, because you're
Yeah.
afraid of the human interaction because it's too much for you. Because it's like in Men in Black, when Will Smith goes into to see one of these fucking encephalopods or whatever he calls them.
Yeah.
He knows him to be an alien, and he knows him to be a gun runner. And so he says, have you sold a such and such to such and such? And he's like, no. And then when he starts to ask him too many questions, it gets too much for the alien. All of a sudden, his fucking head blows apart, and then the
Yeah.
real thing comes out. And so, you can't help thinking that when you look around this world, then we're in a very, very peculiar dimension. And when you've had psychedelics, then
Yes.
everything becomes feasible. Absolutely everything becomes feasible, and it doesn't matter what bizarre notion anybody can come up with, like Philip K. Dick or Rudolf Steiner. I don't know whether you're familiar with Rudolf Steiner.
No, no, I'm not.
Yeah, he was a writer from about 100 years ago, and he created all these kind of like these eco farms for people, and they're still going on today.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Steiner
Okay.
retreats, and he said that all the entities emanated out of the planets, out of Venus and Saturn, and Saturn is big in David Icke stuff, and it's got a real symbolic pull and energy on this dimension. And so when you get into all that sort of stuff, you get absolutely wild, and then you say to yourself, okay, right, I've got to go and do some shopping now.
Yeah.
Or got to go and peel some fucking potatoes,
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on? And you look at what you're doing, and
That was,
it's so preposterous. It's
yeah.
absolutely preposterous in
And it
view
starts
of.
making sense when you really delve deep into it. Especially like right now, I'm just dabbling into like a little bit of occultism and symbology and the power of words, and it's so deeply embedded in our psyche and reality. It's so fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's things like this.
in recent times with my videos, I've done a lot about language, and I state that language is a part of the prison planet because it's the way the
Yeah,
language is constructed. It's constructed to keep us bound. And
yeah,
the classic
yeah.
example of knowing this to be true is when you have a psychedelic experience, you come back into this dimension and you kind of like, you,
No,
you don't have the language to articulate it. And so you say to
no.
yourself, hang on then, there's something fucked up gone wrong here. Because if I don't have the language to articulate that, and much of it seems fucking good. I eat
Mm,
DMT, and it's amazing, and the lessons you can get from the psychedelic experiences, but you can't really convey them to another person. And so therefore you get to the conclusion then that, well, it's because the construct of the language is designed in a way whereby you can't express yourself in a spiritual way.
mm. It's true because language cannot encapsulate that kind of experience at all. Yeah, you got
And
a
so
point there.
it's kind of like there's other dimensions that this language doesn't pertain to, and it seems to me that it's a reason. And I've looked into it, pretty deep, and I see that without a shadow of a doubt, the language has been constructed in such a way to keep us suppressed. And I just point out a few words here and there, like understand. Do you understand? Well, I mean, no, I don't understand. I'm not understanding your jurisdiction because that's what it means. Do you understand this level of authority? So I don't ever say it, I say understand. I understand.
Innistan. Whoa. Yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, because like you say in your videos, is that knowledge, it has to be experienced. It has to be an experiential thing. You can't read, you
Yeah.
can't listen. Invariably, you can't look because it's not knowledge. You've got to experience it. It's got to be the mind, body, spirit, the whole thing going on, whereby you
Mm.
consider something to be true. And then when you say, like, I know something, well, why is it that the word know, K-N-O-W, is the same vibration as the negation? The negative, no, the denial. Well, if you
Mm.
say I know this and I know that, it's a double negation. And so even though you think you are expressing that you actually yes something, I yes something. That's what it should be, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you consider that
Yeah.
you've experienced
Yeah.
something,
Because the
yes.
subconscious understands the word.
Yeah. So what it does is double backs on you, and it tells you that you don't know it, you don't know it, you don't know it, and it's the vibration that we're using. No, no, no. And so when you look at it like that, you think that's fucking mental. And then if you look at
You just blew
insanity,
my mind just then.
yeah, this person's insane. Well, if they're insane, then they're perfectly sane. But it doesn't mean that. You see, because they don't want that energy and power to work. They want it to have, the reverse effect on you. So when you say somebody's insane, it's supposed to mean a negative thing. And you're supposed to, oh, stay away from that person. But if they are insane, then they're one of the very few on this planet, and we should have more involvement with them. And then you go to
Yeah.
schizophrenics, and then you go to people in mental institutions when they are partaking in another dimension. And we
Yeah.
think they're crazy, but they're not. They've just got, like, say, 1 foot in another dimension. It's kind of like being in a perpetual DMT trip. They are seeing stuff that the everyday people don't see in this matrix. And
Yeah, we just put them in a mental institution. In some cultures, people with schizophrenia are shamans, you
shamans,
know?
exactly. And if you have these tendencies to be able to see different stuff and experience different stuff, then people want to make a shaman of you straight away because you're a
Yeah.
seer.
Yeah.
And so you can see then from the indigenous peoples how they've done it, because there's been no suppression about all of this. That seems to me to be right, because they delve very, very heavily into the spiritual world because they're connected with it, with nature and all the spirits and all the rest of it. But in this society, no, it's about closing you down, motherfuckers. So they close you down with everything. They don't allow you to take any psychedelics. They close you down with the language. They close you down with the changing of the history and the suppression of the history and freedom of
Limits
speech.
and boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah, and all this sort of thing. And so this then segues into something else that I wanted to speak with you about. I don't know how long have you got. Have you
No,
got?
I'm good. All good, man.
Okay,
I'm free. Yeah.
cool. So you know that my site was taken down.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I was
Yeah.
really quite blasé about it. I don't want to have any restrictions from anybody. And if I want to smoke DMT and make a film about it, I fucking will. And so, because I did that, then that they busted my site, and I've wrote to them on several occasions, and I've asked them for my property back, but they don't respond. And so they're a law unto themselves. And so I am aware that Adam, he was getting pretty close. He's getting pretty panicky when he was down in New Zealand about his site being closed down. And he was communicating with you. Did you have a few strikes or warnings or whatnot?
Yeah, I had 2 videos removed, which were both videos where it didn't have any graphic use of any substances, which I found really strange. It was just me talk. Like, one was like a microdosing mushrooms video where I just talk about my experience with it, and another one was like an LSD trip report. I did get the strikes reversed, like appealed. So it
Right.
was all good in the end. I think it was like a bot just automatically striking videos because it just didn't make sense. I'm like, why did you give me a strike for this video but not this one? If anything, that should have gotten a strike.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going on. I don't think it's necessarily to do with drugs. I think it was that there was a YouTuber, Paul Logan, who made a video about going into this Japanese suicide forest, and he made a vlog about it, and then that got a huge backlash, and then ever since then YouTube has been more tough on the community guidelines. So I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's something to do with the algorithm, the bots, and it's not necessarily YouTube themselves, because at this point this algorithm, it's its own entity now. Like, not even people
Exactly.
that work at YouTube knows how it works, you know.
Yeah. And
AI.
yes, it's been coming for a long time. We used to have a comedy show in the UK, and it used to depict if somebody was trying to do something, then it would say, "Computer said no." You know, you want to do this or you want to do that. Oh, computer said no. And for instance, if you want to go to oh fuck. Okay, so Paul.